Excuse me, ma'am, what do you think you're doing here?
Taking out my trash, officer. My office is right here.
That dumpster is private property. You can't use it.
I'm an attorney. I know the law, and this is my office right here.
Ma'am, you're illegally dumping trash.
You have no right to run my ID. That's harassment.
This is suspicious. I don't believe...
Officer Marcus Webb had been with the Phoenix Police Department for 6 years. And in those 6 years, he'd compiled a record that should have ended his career long before this moment. 11 complaints, 10 of them involving stops of black professionals in commercial areas. Each complaint told the same story. Webb approached people who belonged exactly where they were, questioned their presence, demanded identification without cause, and escalated when they asserted their rights. Each time, the department responded with retraining requirements that Webb attended but never internalized. One bright afternoon in Phoenix, his pattern of targeting successful black professionals finally collided with someone who had the knowledge, resources, and determination to make sure he never did it again. A black woman in her late 30s, attorney Linda Mabatha, was simply taking out her office trash during her lunch break, carrying a manila folder and her phone, walking from her law office to the shared dumpster in the professional complex where she'd practiced for 4 years. No crime, no violation, no disturbance, just a lawyer handling mundane office tasks between client meetings. But Officer Webb saw her through the lens of bias that had defined his entire career and made an assumption that would cost him his badge, cost the city $2,700,000, and expose a department that had received a decade's worth of warnings about his conduct. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Phoenix, Arizona, Camelback Business Park, a sprawling complex of low-rise professional buildings on the north side of the city where attorneys, accountants, consultants, and small businesses lease office space in a well-maintained environment. The buildings are painted in desert tones, tan and beige, with covered walkways and shared amenities including parking lots and waste disposal areas. The complex is quiet, professional, the kind of place where people come to work, not to cause problems. It was 1:15 in the afternoon on a Saturday. The Arizona sun beat down with that dry intensity that makes shadows feel like gifts. Most of the offices were closed for the weekend, but a few dedicated professionals were catching up on paperwork. The parking lot was nearly empty, except for a handful of vehicles scattered across the spaces nearest the buildings. Attorney Linda Mabatha had been practicing civil rights law in Phoenix for 12 years. 12 years representing clients who'd been wrongfully terminated, discriminated against, or had their constitutional rights violated. She'd won landmark settlements. She'd argued before the Arizona Court of Appeals. She'd taught seminars on employment discrimination. She'd been recognized by the State Bar Association for her pro bono work. Her colleagues respected her. Her clients trusted her. Her opponents feared her. That afternoon, she was working on a brief that was due Monday morning. Nothing urgent, just the kind of weekend catch-up that lawyers do when court deadlines approach. She'd been in her office since 9 a.m., drafting arguments, reviewing case law, building the foundation for a client's discrimination claim. Around lunchtime, she'd accumulated a small bag of trash, papers she'd shredded, an empty salad container, a coffee cup, normal office waste. She grabbed the trash bag and her manila folder containing some documents she needed to review, locked her office door behind her, and walked 30 feet across the parking lot to the shared dumpster that serviced her building and the 3 others in her section of the complex. She was wearing a navy blue blazer over a light pink blouse, professional attire even on a Saturday, her hair pulled back, her appearance exactly what you'd expect from an attorney working through the weekend. She lifted the dumpster lid, tossed her trash bag inside, let the lid fall closed. Simple, mundane, legal. She'd done this exact same thing hundreds of times over 4 years of leasing that office space. But Officer Marcus Webb, driving through the complex on what he called a proactive patrol, saw something different. Webb had been with Phoenix PD for 6 years, but his record was a case study in systemic failure. 11 formal complaints, 10 involving black professionals, a dentist leaving his practice after hours, stopped and questioned for 20 minutes about whether he really owned the building, an architect meeting a client at a construction site, detained and searched because Webb decided he looked like he was trespassing, a female executive getting coffee from her company's break room, questioned about whether she actually worked there, forced to call her supervisor to verify her employment. Every single incident followed the same pattern. Webb saw a black person in a professional setting, couldn't reconcile their presence with his biased assumptions, and decided to investigate. And every single time, the complaint was closed with meaningless retraining, implicit bias workshop, de-escalation training, community policing seminar. Webb attended them all. He signed the completion forms. He went right back to doing exactly what he'd always done. His supervisors knew. Internal Affairs had a file on him that documented the pattern clearly, but Phoenix PD was facing staffing shortages. They needed officers on patrol. And Webb had never been sued, never been caught on video doing something egregious enough to force termination, so he stayed on the street. That afternoon, Webb was assigned to a commercial patrol route that included the Camelback Business Park. He drove slowly through the complex, windows down, looking for anything out of place. And then he saw her, a black woman in business attire, alone in a nearly empty parking lot, walking toward a dumpster. Webb's brain made the calculation it always made. She doesn't fit. This is a professional complex. She's probably dumping trash illegally. She might be trespassing. I need to check this out. He didn't consider that she might work there. He didn't notice the professional attire. He didn't think about the fact that she was walking confidently, not sneaking, not hiding, just existing. He saw what his bias trained him to see, a black woman who probably didn't belong in this expensive professional complex. Webb pulled his patrol car into the lot and parked directly behind Linda's white sedan, blocking it in. He stepped out, his hand resting on his belt, and walked toward her as she was heading back to her office. Do you think attorneys face the same profiling as everyone else? Drop your answer below. Excuse me, ma'am, what do you think you're doing here? Linda stopped and turned. She recognized the tone immediately. Not a polite inquiry, an accusation wrapped in a question. She'd represented enough clients who'd been through this exact scenario. She knew what was coming. Taking out my trash, officer. My office is right here. She gestured toward the building 15 feet away where a bronze nameplate next to the door read Mbatha Law Group. Webb looked at the building, then back at her, skepticism written across his face. That dumpster's private property. You can't use it. Linda's expression shifted from polite to professional. Officer, I lease office space in this building. That dumpster services this building and the 3 others in this section. I've been using it for 4 years. I have every legal right to dispose of my office waste there. I'll need to see some proof of that. Proof? Linda shifted the manila folder to her other hand. Officer, what is this really about? I'm taking out trash from my law office. There's no crime here, no violation, no reason for you to stop me. Webb stepped closer. Ma'am, I'm an attorney. I know the law, and this is my office here. I don't care what you say you are. I've had problems with people illegally dumping in these dumpsters. I need to verify you're authorized to use it. Problems with people illegally dumping. Linda repeated the words slowly, letting them hang in the air. Officer, what's your name? Officer Webb. Officer Webb, I'm going to be very clear with you. I am attorney Linda Mbatha. I practice civil rights law. I have represented dozens of clients who've been racially profiled by police officers, and right now, you are racially profiling me. You stopped me for taking out my office trash because you saw a black woman in a professional complex and decided I didn't belong here. That's textbook discrimination. Webb's face flushed. Ma'am, you're illegally dumping trash. I'll need to see your ID. You have no right to run my ID. There's no reasonable suspicion of any crime. This is harassment, and if you were actually trained properly, you'd know that. This is suspicious. I don't believe you. Linda's eyes narrowed. You don't believe I'm an attorney. Even though I just told you I practice law, even though my office is 15 feet away with my name on it, even though I'm standing here in professional attire on a Saturday afternoon clearly working, you don't believe me because I'm black. And you can't imagine that a black woman could be a successful civil rights attorney in Phoenix. Is that about right, Officer Webb? I'm investigating a potential violation. No, you're not. And if you keep this up, you'll be the one getting sued. This is where bias collides with knowledge. Officer Marcus Webb had profiled plenty of people in his 6 years on patrol, but he'd never profiled an attorney who specialized in police misconduct cases. He'd never targeted someone who understood the law better than he did. He'd never stopped someone who had the resources and expertise to make him pay for his pattern of discrimination. Webb should have walked away. He should have verified her office lease. He should have apologized and left. But his pride, his pattern, his inability to admit he was wrong, all of it pushed him forward. Ma'am, turn around and put your hands behind your back. Linda's eyes widened. You're arresting me? For what? Taking out my trash? You're trespassing and illegally dumping. And you're refusing to provide identification. I'm not trespassing. I lease an office here, and I don't have to provide identification when I haven't committed a crime. This is a Fourth Amendment violation, and you know it. Webb reached for his handcuffs. Turn around. I am not turning around. You have no legal authority to arrest me. I have committed no crime. I am standing in a parking lot that I have legal access to, outside an office that I pay rent for, holding my own case files. She held up the manila folder. If you touch me, if you put those handcuffs on me, you will be sued personally, and this department will be sued institutionally. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Webb grabbed her arm. Linda pulled back, not violently, but firmly. Do not touch me. I am an attorney. I am recording this mentally, and I will document every word you've said. You are violating my civil rights. Webb yanked her arm harder, trying to spin her around. Linda maintained her balance, her legal training and her survival instincts both kicking in simultaneously. This is assault. You are committing assault. You. The manila folder fell from her hand, paper scattering across the pavement. Webb forced her against the side of her own car and pulled her arms behind her back. The handcuffs clicked into place. This is illegal detention, Linda said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. You have no probable cause. You have no reasonable suspicion. You have nothing but your bias against a black woman in a professional setting. Webb said nothing. He just walked her toward his patrol car. A man emerged from one of the other offices, an accountant who'd been working late and heard the commotion. Hey, what's going on? That's Linda. She's an attorney. Her office is right there. Webb kept walking. Police business. Stay back. But she works here. I've seen her here for years. I said stay back. The accountant pulled out his phone and started recording. Webb noticed, but didn't stop. He put Linda in the back of his patrol car and shut the door. Linda sat there, handcuffed, watching through the window as the accountant picked up her scattered papers and her manila folder. She was furious. She was humiliated, but she was also already building her case. Should officers be allowed to arrest people for trespassing without verifying their legal right to be there? Let me know what you think. Webb Radio Dispatch. Dispatch, this is Unit 43. I have a female in custody for trespassing and illegal dumping at Camelback Business Park. Need a supervisor to my location. The dispatcher's voice came back. Copy that. Supervisor, en route. What's the address? Webb gave the address. Within minutes, Sergeant Rachel Stein arrived. She'd been with Phoenix PD for 14 years and had worked with Webb before. She knew his record. She knew his pattern. And when she pulled into the parking lot and saw a black woman in professional attire handcuffed in Webb's patrol car, she knew exactly what had happened. Stein approached Webb. What's the situation? Female trespassing and illegally dumping trash in a commercial dumpster. Refused to provide ID. Got aggressive when I tried to verify her presence. Stein looked at the accountant, who was still standing nearby with Linda's papers. Do you know this woman? Yes, ma'am. That's attorney Linda Mbatha. She's been practicing law in that office over there for years. She's not trespassing. She works here. Stein closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then she walked to Webb's patrol car and opened the back door. Ma'am, I'm Sergeant Stein. I apologize for this situation. Can you tell me what happened? Linda's voice was calm but carried the full weight of her legal expertise. Sergeant, I am attorney Linda Mbatha. I practice civil rights law. I lease office space in Building C. I was taking out my office trash using the dumpster that services my building when Officer Webb stopped me and accused me of trespassing and illegal dumping. I identified myself. I explained that I work here. I informed him that he had no legal basis to detain me. He ignored everything I said and arrested me anyway. This is racial profiling. This is unlawful detention. And this is going to cost your department millions. Stein turned to Webb. Did you verify her office lease before you arrested her? She refused to provide. That's not what I asked. Did you verify that she works here? Webb hesitated. I was going to. You arrested her first. Stein's voice was cold. You arrested an attorney in her own office complex for taking out her trash without verifying anything. She turned back to Linda. Miss Mbatha, I'm going to uncuff you immediately. Do you need medical attention? No, but I do need your name, his badge number, his body camera footage, and a formal incident report, because I'm filing a lawsuit before the end of business Monday. Stein nodded. You'll have everything you need. She unlocked the handcuffs and helped Linda out of the patrol car. Again, I apologize. This should never have happened. Linda rubbed her wrists. Apologies don't undo constitutional violations, Sergeant, but I appreciate the acknowledgement. She looked at Webb, who was standing off to the side, finally realizing the magnitude of his mistake. Officer Webb, you just profiled a civil rights attorney who specializes in suing police officers. I couldn't have scripted a better case if I tried. By Monday morning, the story was everywhere. Civil rights attorney arrested for taking out trash at her own law office. Phoenix cop detains lawyer in her workplace parking lot. Attorney handcuffed after officer refuses to believe she practices law. The optics were catastrophic. The facts were indefensible. Linda Mbatha held a press conference Monday afternoon, standing outside the police station, her papers from the Manila folder neatly organized, her case already built. On Saturday, I was arrested for being a successful black woman in a professional environment. Officer Webb saw me taking out my trash and decided I was a criminal. Not because of anything I did, but because in his mind, black people don't belong in professional complexes unless they're cleaning or committing crimes. He couldn't imagine that I might be the attorney whose name is on the door. That kind of bias doesn't just harm individuals. It exposes a systemic failure. She paused. Officer Webb has 11 formal complaints in 6 years. 10 of them involve black professionals. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern that Phoenix PD allowed to continue for years. And now they're going to pay for it. Civil rights organizations contacted Linda immediately, offering support, resources, publicity. But Linda didn't need help. She was a civil rights attorney. This was literally her area of expertise. She filed the lawsuit herself 72 hours after the incident. The lawsuit named Officer Marcus Webb, his supervisors who'd ignored his complaint history, and the Phoenix Police Department. The allegations were thorough and devastating. Unlawful arrest without probable cause, racial profiling and discrimination, Fourth Amendment violations, assault and battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent retention and supervision of an officer with a documented pattern of bias, failure to implement adequate training and accountability measures. The complaint included Webb's entire complaint history, 11 incidents, 10 involving black professionals, all documented, all dismissed with retraining. Phoenix PD's attorneys reviewed the case and came to an immediate conclusion. This was a nightmare. Linda Mbatha wasn't just any plaintiff. She was an experienced civil rights attorney who knew exactly how to build a case. She had witnesses, she had documentation, she had Webb's complaint history, she had her own credibility as an attorney who'd never been arrested, never been accused of any crime, never given anyone any reason to question her integrity. The city settled before it went to trial. $2,700,000 paid to attorney Linda Mbatha, the largest settlement in Phoenix history for a wrongful arrest case involving a professional. Officer Marcus Webb was terminated 9 weeks after the incident. The termination letter was comprehensive and final. Officer Webb engaged in racial profiling and unlawful arrest of a licensed attorney in her place of business. He detained Ms. Mbatha without probable cause, ignored her identification and explanation, and arrested her based solely on racial bias. His actions violated department policy, state law, and constitutional protections. His pattern of similar conduct, documented through 11 previous complaints, demonstrates an inability to serve without bias. His employment is terminated immediately. Webb's name was entered into the National Decertification Index. His law enforcement career was over, permanently, everywhere. He attempted to appeal through the police union. The union reviewed the case, saw that he'd profiled a civil rights attorney, and quietly withdrew their support. There was no defense, no justification, no way to spin this. Webb issued a statement through an attorney. I made serious errors in judgment and I accept responsibility for my actions. I apologize to attorney Mbatha and the community. Linda Mbatha's response was swift and public. Officer Webb's apology is meaningless. He didn't make an error. He followed a pattern he'd established over 6 years. The real question is, why Phoenix PD allowed that pattern to continue through 11 complaints? Why do some officers assume black professionals don't belong in professional settings? Comment your thoughts. The Department of Justice opened a pattern and practice investigation into Phoenix PD's handling of racial profiling complaints. What they found was systemic negligence. Complaints closed without proper investigation. Retraining requirements treated as boxes to check rather than opportunities for change. Supervisors who prioritize officer retention over community safety. No meaningful accountability until someone with resources fought back. The reforms came 6 months later: mandatory verification before any trespassing arrest, automatic investigation for any officer with 3 similar complaints, real-time body camera review for all detention incidents, extended probationary period for new officers, partnership with civil rights organizations to monitor complaint patterns and outcomes. Attorney Linda Mbatha testified before the Phoenix City Council. Her testimony was precise, powerful, and damning. I represent people who've been profiled, discriminated against, and violated by those in positions of authority. I never thought I'd become my own client. But Officer Webb saw me and made an assumption based on nothing but my race. I was taking out trash at my office, where I've practiced for 4 years, where my name is literally on the door, and he decided I was a criminal. She held up a document. This is Officer Webb's complaint history. 11 complaints, 10 involving black professionals, dentists, architects, executives, people who belong exactly where they were when Webb decided they didn't. Every complaint was dismissed. Every warning sign was ignored. And Phoenix PD let him keep patrolling until he finally targeted someone who could force accountability. Her voice dropped. I have resources. I have knowledge. I have the ability to sue and win. But what about everyone else? What about the people Officer Webb profiled who didn't have law degrees? Who didn't know their rights? Who couldn't afford attorneys? How many people did he violate before me? And how many of them are still waiting for justice? The council chamber was silent. Linda continued. $2,700,000 is what my civil rights violation cost this city. But money doesn't change the fact that I was handcuffed in my own office parking lot for taking out my trash. Money doesn't erase the humiliation of being treated like a criminal by someone who couldn't imagine that a black woman could be a successful attorney. And money definitely doesn't prevent the next Officer Webb from doing the same thing to the next victim. She paused. The real cost isn't measured in settlement dollars. It's measured in broken trust, in shattered dignity, in the message you send when you let officers like Webb operate without consequences for years. Fix the system, because the next person he profiles might not be a civil rights attorney, and that person deserves protection too. Should any officer with 5 proven profiling complaints be permanently removed from law enforcement? Let me know in the comments. This wasn't just about trash. This wasn't just about one parking lot encounter. This was about a system that allowed Marcus Webb to target black professionals for 6 years. 11 complaints, 10 involving clear racial bias, all documented, all ignored. The warning signs weren't subtle. They were flashing red lights. But Phoenix PD chose convenience over accountability. They chose filling patrol shifts over protecting the community. They chose Officer Webb's career over the rights of every person he profiled. And attorney Linda Mbatha paid the price. Handcuffed in her own office parking lot, treated like a criminal for taking out her trash, forced to endure the humiliation of being arrested in front of colleagues and clients, all because an officer saw her skin color before he saw her credentials. Marcus Webb's career is over. That's justice. The city paid $2,700,000. That's accountability. But settlements don't restore dignity. Terminations don't undo trauma. And reforms that come after the 11th complaint are reforms that came 10 complaints too late. The real question is what changes now? Do departments finally take the 3rd complaint seriously instead of waiting for the 11th? Do they finally accept that professional credentials don't protect you from bias? Do they finally understand that retraining without accountability is just paperwork that enables the next violation? Because if we don't fix the system that kept Marcus Webb on the street through 11 complaints, if we don't address the culture that treats racial profiling as a training issue rather than a termination issue, then we're just waiting for the next officer, the next victim, the next attorney who gets arrested for taking out her own trash. Comment if this should be federal law. Any officer with 3 proven racial profiling complaints is immediately and permanently decertified. No retraining, no appeals, no second chances. And if you believe stories like this matter, if you think accountability starts with awareness and ends with action, then hit that subscribe button, because we're going to keep exposing these patterns. We're going to keep demanding better. We're going to keep fighting for the professionals, the parents, the people who deserve to exist without being questioned, detained, or arrested for the crime of being black and successful. This isn't just about one officer or one attorney. It's about all of us and the system we're willing to accept.